So, nun also das bereits angeteaste Thema Space Activating in Dänemark. Maria Keinicke wird uns da etwas ganz Besonderes zeigen. Ich habe schon die Ehre gehabt, ein bisschen reinschauen zu dürfen in die Präsentation. Und ich muss ehrlich sagen, ich habe sowas noch nie gesehen. Hello Maria, hello from Vienna.
Hello, nice to see you all.
I hope you can see us, I hope you can hear us. I have to say, it feels a little bit like at the Eurovision Song Contest. And I hope we can say after your presentation, Denmark 12 points.
I hope so too.
So a very warm welcome today, and we're happy that you're taking your time today. And yeah, now the floor is yours for your presentation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I will not take up the floor, but just your screen. And first of all, I will thank you for having me here on your screen today. I hope you are now ready for some English. I was actually living in Switzerland once, but my Schweizerdeutsch is not so good anymore, so we have to continue in English. I hope it will work for you. I am here to give you some inspiration on how to think sport facilities further. And my message for you is that thinking sport facilities further is already starting before the design phase. And maybe it is actually never ending. You have to continue thinking further. My talk to you here today will be approximately 45 minutes. And then there will be some times for questions also. I hope it will work, even though I'm not there present, but here on your screen. I will also later be back for the panel discussion. My talk will be in 3 steps. First, I will tell you a little about myself and the company that I'm running. And then I will tell you about where to start when you are developing sport facilities. And then at last, I will show you some examples on the projects that we have been doing. But I will start by telling a little about myself. But first, I want you to think about what drives you in your work. Why do you get up every morning and go to work? With me, it is the aim to participate in making a better world for the current now and also for the future. Already as a kid, I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to shape the rooms around us. I was making big plans, drawings on the road outside our house, and I was waving at the cars to slow down so they didn't erase my fine houses. When I have been making the houses, I was walking around and being in the kitchen, being in the living room. And other times of the year, we had a field in the back of my house, of the garden. And I went there and I moved around with the hay, making rooms and making different plans and making new buildings. I think the farmer was a little irritated with that because it had to be put back before he could go on with his farming. Later, I went to the Royal Academy of Fine Arts and I became a real architect with a fine diploma. And I went into this black common uniform that all architects do have. And I had a lot of fight with the contractors and I did some big building projects. But then I realized that actually I wanted to change the world and I wanted to make it into something better. And I went back to the School of Architecture and I made a research project. I made a research project on how to develop the maybe ugliest building type we have in Denmark, the traditional Danish sport facility. And I wanted to find out how we can change this facility into something bigger, better, nicer, and more welcoming for more user group. And I did 3 years of research. And in that time I did the research, I also met my colleague. And when we finished both our research project, we started the company Keingart. And we became the sport we became the experts in changing sports facilities. Keingart, we founded in 2007, and we're called Keingart Space Activators because we activate the spaces that are left over, but we also make activating spaces. Our aim is to create places that tempt people to move. And why do we do that? We do that because, to go back where I started, we wanted to make a better world. And not everybody wants to be physically active, but we think it's a part of having a good world and a good life. So we make places that tempt people to move, and places where they just want to hang out and be physically active. So actually we are not the traditional sports architect making big sports arenas. We are more change facilitators, I would say. We change the outdoor areas, the buildings, the sport facilities, and even often also the mindset of our clients. And how we do that, I will tell you in the next 40 minutes. I will now share my screen and hope it will work so you can see me. It's always very interesting. Yes, I can see that we are there now. Yes. Okay, so thinking sport facilities further. This is the title, and this is what I want to tell you about. First, I would like to tell you a little about where to start, give you some process recommendations, and then show you some examples. First of all, actually, when thinking sport facilities further, it starts with the why. Why should we even think them further? The why comes from this golden circle made by Simon Sinek, who is a famous English writer. And he, back in 2009, made a book called Start with Why. And normally when we make projects, we actually have the tendency to go outside in, to start with the what. What is it we want to build? How do we build it? And often we actually don't even reach the middle there. We don't reach the why. So what Simon Sinek says is that we have to start with the why. We have to start with why do we want to change the sport facilities? And then afterwards, after defining this why, then we can say, how do we want to do it? And what is it that we want to do? And why is it then important? It's because you will end up totally different places. For example, if you start outside and go in, you will maybe start by saying that you need a sports hall number 2 or 3, and you will ask the existing users what they will need. And then you will end up supporting those who already have. So your why will be giving more space to those who have. If you start with the why, then you will maybe find out that your why is that you want to make a social generator where everybody meets. And if this is your why, then you don't have to ask the existing users because they're already there. You have to ask those who doesn't come. And that's much more difficult. And then you might end up with finding out that what you have to build is something that's multifunctional and inviting, with common areas in connection to the sports areas. So I would really recommend always to start with this why when we make a new project. It's also very important, actually, if you need to make fundraising, if you have to make others interested in your project, then your why have to be quite clear. It is my experience. And also actually to make more sustainable solutions, because actually we have to realize that the most sustainable building is the one that we don't build. So by asking why, then we can maybe also combine and condense the things so that we will not build too much. So defining the why is the first step. Then the next step is to find your trends and game changers. Some years ago, I realized that I had to be more skilled in foreseeing the future and also to believe in what I see and be able to communicate it. So I actually started the quest of becoming a futurist, one who knows about the future. I started on an education by a universal futurist, where we were trained in foreseeing the future, turn it into trends and act upon them. I use that now every day. I spot trend, I try to connect them, and I try to act them out and start all over, spotting, connecting, and acting. And you can learn that too. First, I would like to tell you a little about what trend is. A trend is a movement from something to something. So it's not like one word. It's not, disruption would not be a trend. It needs to be something that is moving from something to something. And then when you are looking at trends, you have to not only look with your eyes, but also with your heart and your beliefs. You have to see, you have to feel, and you have to believe. So you have to use the whole of you actually to spot the trends and feel what is coming next. And then if you cannot find it, then it could be a clue and a good idea to look for your irritation. What irritates you? What is you find really irritating about the sport facilities or the way that sports is going or the society is going? Because in this irritation, there might be a covered trend. So I will show you some of the trends that I see just as examples on how you can work with it and do it. This is a trend from my teachers, Universal Futurists. They say that the world will go from more to better. The success in the future is not making more, but making better. And we will stop by measuring in more, in faster, and we will instead look at the quality and the positive influence on our surroundings. And that's, as you can see on the pictures, very important if we don't want the planet to burn, but want it to thrive instead. Another trend I see, especially also from the sport facilities, is that we go from indoor to outdoor. Actually, spending time outside is now the new luxury. So many of us are sitting here in conference rooms the whole day, the whole week, the whole year, looking for the summer vacation soon coming. But I'm sure that a lot of the activities that went outside during the corona, they don't want to go back inside. At least that's what I see here in Denmark. A lot of training is going outside in the parks and in the cityscapes also, and in nature, of course. Then a trend I see is that we go from gray to green, and I think that green room in the future will always be accessible, also in the city and also in our buildings. And I do think that the cities and the buildings that are green and have green rooms, they will be preferred. And it's because we will see that it's good for the stress reduction, it's good for our health, it's also good for the nature. The rain can fall down and run away without going to flood everything. So I think this gray to green will be very important in the future. And then I think we will also see even more going from club culture to self-organized. I don't say that club culture and club activities will die out, but the majority of sports activities will be self-organized. And it's because it's so easy now to, on the social media, to make a group, to arrange something on your own, to set it up, so you can fit sports into your life in a more flexible way. I think this will be even more. We see it a lot, and we saw it a lot during Corona, and I think it will be even more in the future. And then, when you have defined your trends, and you have maybe found your game changer, the game changer is the one trend that you think will be most important for you. The trend that really will do a change for you. Then the next thing I will ask you to do, if you want to make a good process, is to test more solutions. When you have defined your why and you have found these trends, then you do your projects in a way where you test more solutions. This is a process that we developed many years ago, where we are looping back and forth between implementing knowledge, having empathy, and adding creativity. And we loop back between these three many times in a project. And also when we make drawings, projects, and plans for our clients, we make always different scenarios. And we make different scenarios so that we are able to discuss the pros, the cons, and the ideas. When you plan a project, you have a lot of abstract ideas on how it should be and what you could imagine. But then, and you think you all agree, but then when you see the drawings, you find out that you didn't agree that much maybe. And what the scenarios do is they give you a very concrete way of discussing the things. So you can ask, okay, was it actually this I meant when I said that I needed that? And that's a very good way to have a good discussion on these very concrete terms. I will show you here an example. This was a project we did in Copenhagen, where we made a sports park, and the first three scenarios we called the sports field, the forest, and the urban park. And as you see in the small pictures, they were very different, and we talked to the client about what was the pros and the cons with the different proposals. And we talked about all three of them, and we are always very keen on saying that it's not like they should vote on one of them. We should make the best combination. And at the lower part of the picture, you see the final combination, where we combined all these three. And this is how we always work with our projects. We work with defining a strong why. Then we find out what are the trends and what are maybe the game changers for this project. And then we have a process where we design the things together with the client through putting forth these scenarios, finding the final solution. So now I will go to show you some examples on how I would say to develop multifunctional and inviting facilities. And my why for this is to attract new users, to make new users come and stay, engage in activity. And this is all based on the future trends that we see. And to make new users come and stay and engage in activity, they have to feel free to enter. That's very important, otherwise they won't come. They have to stay and watch. They have to be able to engage in spontaneous activities. And then you also have to innovate the organized activity. First of all, I will tell you how we work with feeling free to enter. It's very important that entrance areas and facades, they should communicate and display the activities going on inside. This is the main gateway to Tivoli in Copenhagen. I'm sure a lot of you know it. And you can easily see that this is where you have to enter. And you also already see what is happening inside. It's an amusement park, it's green, and you can see some of the amusements. So it really shows where you should enter and what is going on inside. But when we go to the Danish sports hall, it normally looks like this. And this is more or less the way they all look. At least this is actually a good one because it has windows this way. Not all of them have. And what we did at the Bellahøj Sports School was to make a totally new entrance. We actually didn't rebuild the school too much, but they had this aim that they wanted to change a normal school, public school, into a sports school. And we made this new entrance where we painted the pavement red and made these running lines. And actually we also changed the bell. So instead of saying ring, ring, you are too late, then actually when you are almost too late, then it's a cheer from the stadium saying, ooh, yeah, come on, let's run, let's go. So you get more eager to go inside even though you are late. So you feel like running into the stadium every morning you come to school. Another way to do it is to have new activities just right outside. Here it is from Fåborg in Fyn, and we made an extension of the existing sports hall. You can see that on the back. But then we also made this big roof, this covering of the outdoor areas, and we made different kind of new activities and functions like skater park, basketball area, parkour area, and training areas. So you can see already on the outside what is happening on the inside. And here in Vissenbjerg, also in Fyn, they actually asked us to build their sports hall number 3, but we found out that what they needed was something for gymnastic, and we said that they should maybe build something else than a sports hall then. And we made this smaller building, and we made it with a lot of windows facing out to the city and to the green areas. So now this new building is connecting the football fields with the sports hall between, and this gymnastic hall is there in between, with a very open and inviting facade. Another thing you can do to make people feel welcome is to combine the sports activities with the non-sport activity. Here it is in Vodskov Culture and Sports Center in Jutland. They also actually asked for sports hall number 2, but we found out that they needed somewhere to make conferences and small meetings. So we made a much smaller hall for them. And then we found out that they wanted also to make a community center. And they had a library and a youth club and a fitness center in different places of the town. It's a very small town. And we suggested that they connected these different facilities and made them together with the sports hall. So actually you can see that we placed the library, the fitness center, the new hall, and the youth club here in connection to this old traditional sports hall. And then we made one common entrance and one common cafe. And this is now where everybody in this small town meets every day. This picture is here from the youth club. And then there is also the gaming center. And as you see, we've made these big facades that are like shelves showing what is happening inside to the outside area. And then there is a cafe in the middle where there are spaces for the community to gather. A lot of the people just come here, and you see it's both the kids and also the adults and the more elderly people. Actually, we was talking to one of the guys, I think it's this guy, he said, yeah, it's not because that I don't get this newspaper at home. I do that, I have it at home also, but it's much nicer to read it here because then maybe I will meet somebody that I can talk to. Another way to also invite people in is to make the indoor areas like an extension of the public space. We did that in Nørrebro Library. It's built together with the Nørrebro Sports Hall here in the middle of Copenhagen. And it's an old place where they were renovating the trains. And it had these big panels, and we opened them and put in windows instead. And we made this big panels like bookshelf. So they were communicating that this is a library, even without a sign saying library. And this works as an extension of the public space. You come out from the space out here, the city space, and you can walk through and go through and enter the sports hall. And people use it a lot. They just hang out like they would do also in the city. Then, when you have been inviting people in and they feel welcome and there's something to come for, then you have to find out how to make them stay and watch. And to make people stay and watch, then I would say that activities should be visible, that activity zones should be surrounded by social zones, and people should be allowed to hang out. Like you see in the small picture here, then you have the kids running around, and you have somewhere also to sit outside here. And we made Haslev Sports School's new jumping house in this way, the jumping and fitness house. They needed a house for jumping. They had this old sports hall here, and we made only this small. And then we made fitness here, and in between we made a social zone, like almost a heart. And in this social zone, you can sit and you can hang out, and there are a lot of transparency between the fitness and the jumping. And you can sit and hang out on all these areas. And here you see also how the social zone is very closely connected to the active zone. These girls are training and their friends are sitting there watching. That's a very important thing in these kind of schools in Denmark, where you live and are together the whole time. And here you see also how this social zone is being used for hanging out and also for stretching and warming up and so on. In Vissenbjerg, like you saw the facades before, we made a heat up, cool down area. This area is between the gymnastic hall and the outside area. And you can also remove these furnitures, and then you can have a party or a meeting or whatever. But it's very good to have these more informal areas in connection to the more formal sports areas. And then also in Vissenbjerg, in the traditional sport, we made spaces for being active on the sideline. Like you have all the ladies, I think it is more or less, doing gymnastics. Then it's good that the kids can hang out here at the side. We made some different zones where you can hang out and be active. You can jump from thing to thing, and you can climb in these climbing walls. And then, when you have made people feel that they were allowed to come, and you have made them stay and watch, then the next step is also to tempt them to do spontaneous actions. And I think it's very important to do it in this way, because people, those who don't like sport and will not maybe participate in the normal traditional sport, they need this kind of step-by-step invitation. So the next thing is this spontaneous action on the sideline. And here you can, for example, make motorical landscapes, and you can have free workout opportunities, and you can make open access public facilities. Here in Tornhøj Sports Hall, it's a sports hall in connection with the school in Aalborg, Jutland, and it's also a kind of a community house. There is a traditional sports hall and a smaller hall for gymnastic, and then we made what is called the club zone here. And then from the entrance that was there original and all the way to this new club zone, we made this red floor, and we made circle training, and we made motorical landscapes. This is a multifunctional landscape you see on one of the walls in the sports hall, and we also made it so it could also be used like for storage. And this is a picture from one of them and one from the other. And as you see, the kids, they just love it. Actually, one of the teachers say, oh, normally they really don't like to go to the sport classes, but now I cannot make them go out again. So this is just inviting, and they are just running there, and it's very inviting for them. And we have built in all different kind of facilities, like small climbing walls and rings where you can hang and swing and so on. And then actually we also made this free workout opportunity. We made a circle training path where you have this 10 stations and an explanation on what to do in all the 10 stations. Like you see here, you can do different kind of workouts. And yes, that's me many years ago. And another thing you can do is to make an open program. That was a thing we did in Carlsberg. We made this big project called the Rope Forest, where we put 3,500 wide ropes hanging from this ceiling. And actually, I remember that one of the clients said, "Okay, but why? Why should we put these in?" And we said, "Oh, we will. What is it going to be used for?" And we said, "Oh, we will see what it will be used for." But the aim was to make something special, something open, and something inviting. And it was a temporary project, so it's unfortunately not there anymore. But it was really something that was visited a lot, and both adults and kids love to play around in these ropes, and they use them in all kind of different ways. And then in Toronto, we made this proposal for a project where the aim was to make an open access public facilities that people could always go and use. They wanted a green park, but it was also in need for sport facilities. So we put in the sport facilities underneath a roof and covered it with this greenery. So the park is above and the sports areas is below. And that you see here, this is the plan of the garden above, and this is the sport facilities below. We make this big open area where you are outside and can play handball, basketball, and so on. And then there is also an extension under this hill where you can play basketball, for example. And then you have a pathway where you can run, and you have different obstacles here on the hill. And that also gives this climate flexibility that you can go inside when the weather is not that good. Unfortunately, this haven't been built yet, and I don't know if it will be yet because the client, I think, sold this spot of land. Another place where we also was working with this was in Flandern, Brugge, and we were there connecting the city with the study and a sports park. And it is very big, and up here you have part of the university. You have an athletic exploratorium, an innovative square, and over here you have a lot of different challenges and so on for cycling, bike cycling. And then we have connected it all with the pathways going out to the city and connecting all the different areas. So in this way we combine different user groups and also different kind of activities. So now we have the three things that you have invited people in, you have made them stay and watch, and you have also made them participate in spontaneous activities. Then you have also to innovate the organized activities. We say always that it's not enough to build. Actually, there is a commercial here in Denmark saying, "Oh, we can build everything we can build everything away." But we say that you can't. That you have to also work with the activities and the way you organize the thing. So, to make new users group come, you have to focus on the new user groups. You have to make new type of activities and also new facilities. And one project we did, we had a very big aim of making common experiences for everybody. It was a multi-purpose sports hall in Musholm, and it's a place primarily for people who are disabled, where they come and meet or go to vacation. So it was very important that you could always follow each other and you could all participate. So we made a climbing wall where you can actually be helped by a crane. So even though you don't have a lot of forces in your body, you can still climb it. And we make this zip line also where you can, even though you don't have your own strength in your body, your force, then you can actually be hanging these rope, and also big pieces of cloth that you can hang in, and you can try the zip line. Because we talked to people who were disabled, and they said, we also do want to have this rush, even though our body cannot do as much as everybody else. And then another thing we have been working with is to extend the traditional sports hall with new users and activities. And this is from what is called Pulsion in Kolding. It's not built yet, so you will see what is drawings. And we extended the sports hall with a big area for pétanque and mini golf and dart. So it's user groups that are normally not in the sports hall. And we also did a lot to connect the inside and the outside. And here you, for example, see this area where you can play mini golf, pétanque, and it is an indoor area, but very green and very light. And then, of course, it is also to finding out new ways to do the existing activities. In the athletic exploratorium in Odense, Fyn, we made a new way to make an athletic, because normally it's only about throwing and jumping and running, but what we said is that you also have to learn to dare, to master, and to fail. And we wanted to combine the very linear sport from the traditional athletic with the more circular play, and we wanted to make a future flow that combined these two. So this is the way that it ended up looking. We had this traditional athletic, it's track and field, And then we make these new things in the middle, and places where you can cross and run, and we have this path here for the obstacles. And then one thing that also very important is that we opened it to the surroundings. We cut these lines so it's visible also when you pass by. And we made different kind of obstacles to challenge the body in a new way. We made this circle where you can run around and have actually I think it's, no, I don't remember, 3D pressure on your body if you get up and run on the right in the circle here between. And you can also run up and down. Actually, this is the national team of triathlon who are training themselves in this area because it gives them new way of working with their body. So in this we made new ways of jumping and running and throwing, and at the same time the traditional sport is still there. It's just in connection. You can say we put in the new things as a top layer on top of the traditional so they can coexist. And then we opened it up, like I told before, to this outside area, so you kind of feel like you're really forced to run in and be part of this. So this was my presentation, and I hope that together we can make the future activities areas more including and evocating and inviting and inspiring and also colorful. I hope you can help me with that.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Big applause for you. So it was very, very interesting. Everything seems so inviting. And now I want to invite you. Do you want to ask any questions to Maria to Denmark? Yeah, I have to start with you, or after? Okay. We're starting in the corner.
Hello, Maria. My question is to the last example. You have shown an athletics field, and in the headline you also were talking about the throwing events. I couldn't see the throwing events. Is there a chance to include them too in your example?
Actually, we had to take out some of the throwing, so there are only where you throw with the ball, where you throw with the, what's it called, this bit. That we had to take out because they have a green field just next to it where you can do it, because we actually, the small project that I showed you in the beginning when I was showing the different sorry, I have things popping up here on my screen. This project I showed you where we made the sports park in Copenhagen, there we put in all the throwing activities, but then we couldn't do as much in the middle of the area as we did in the athletic exploratorium. So a lot of the activities we did in the athletic exploratoriums, we put on the rim side of the running areas instead. So it can be combined, but it is not combined in the athletic exploratorium. There they throw mostly in another place, a little in this. We made a hill where you can kind of throw up on the hill.
Thank you.
Hello. I didn't see fences. This is wonderful. Sometimes, but who is responsible for this type of offers? Who cleans? Who takes the loyal responsibility? Who says, "Don't make so much"? I don't know. Don't let us so much waste here, or whatever has to be done. Or don't you have
in the last
conflicts
project,
like that?
The athletic exploratorium? Was it in this you meant?
Sorry.
Did you mean in the last project I showed you?
In
the
all the
athletic
examples, I couldn't see fences, so it is open, and this was one of your arguments. It should be inviting. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But could be that somebody comes who lets perhaps some waste there, or is loud, or has some dogs with him, or things like that. Who is responsible for the for cleaning and so on?
Yeah, in the Athletic Exploratorium, the last project I showed, it is the University of Southern Denmark. They do the cleaning and the maintenance of the area, and those who are doing the cleaning and the maintenance, we had a talk with in the beginning, and everybody agreed that they wanted it to be open and inviting, so they didn't want any fences. But of course, it will probably need to have more cleaning than if you close it out. But that's also why I say you have to start with a why, because if your why, for example, is that you will have a nice clean place for the traditional sport users, then maybe you should have a fence, then maybe you should close it off. But if you say that you want to invite new user groups and those who are normally not there, then you have to make it open. And you have to also then take the things that comes along with the garbage and maybe in the noise. But in this place it's a university, and somewhere it's also, in other places it's a municipality.
And these community centers, or where library and sports are combined, also then it is not open, but it is open in this way that you can get in, even if you are young. Of course, you are not allowed to smoke there or so, but you can go as a group of youngsters, you could get in, or?
Yeah, actually you can. It have a very extended opening time where there are some people in the cafe and the doors will be open. And when the doors are not open, then they have a card that they can display, they can beep on the door, and then the door open. We have that a lot of places in Denmark, in the library and in different public buildings. It's our our health insurance card that you also, it's kind of like something we have all of us, and a lot of places they use that in the door, because then they can also see who was actually there. So if everything was burned or destroyed and so on, then they can go back and talk to those who were in there.
Okay, are there any more questions? Then thank you, Maria. Thanks a lot.
You're most welcome.
One more question. Sorry, I didn't see.
Yeah.
I didn't see you.
Hi. In all these wonderful projects, have you been there from the beginning? Like, have you been part of it from the beginning, when the costs are defined, or in between the development process? That's the thing what I'm interested in.
We are almost always a part of it from the beginning. We like to go into the projects already when the clients are defining their why, and they are finding out why they should build it and what they should build and so on. For example, this in Boskov with the community center, they didn't have this idea of combining everything. It was something that we made together in the process. And then in this process, of course, also talking about, okay, who will then cover the cost for running the library and the youth club and so on, because this was, a lot of the sports hall in Denmark are kind of what you call privately owned, but they are supported so much from the municipalities, so they are in a way also public buildings. But you have to find out then how to do with the cost when you have something that are privately run and something that are totally public run, because this youth club and the library is run by public money, and the sports hall is private money. So there are a lot of things to find out, and we are normally kind of part in that process also.
Thank you. Maybe any more questions? No? Then we'll have a get-together and a short break now. Maria, thanks a lot. We see you again afterwards.
See you.